Welcome into Hometown Ghost Stories. I'm Jesse Wilkins, and today we have vampires, we have UFOs, we have ghosts, and we have ghost hunting vampires, vampire hunting ghost hunters, vampire ghosts. I'm going to sit here the whole time. Ladies and gentlemen, the paranormal update.
Seamless.
Should we do that again? No, we're going to leave it. I'm Jesse Wilkins. This is another paranormal update where we talk about all things paranormal in current news. So I am Jesse Wilkins. I'm joined by Rob Coakley. Hello, Robert.
Who are you again?
I'm Jesse Wilkins.
All right.
And we're also joined by Dave.
This should be a good one because these are paranormal updates and we usually still stick to ghosts, but this time we're going to break it up a little bit with some other funky paranormal things.
Absolutely. So if you are new to if you're new to this show, welcome in. You got a lot to catch up on, but we cover these. These are newer stories. These are recent stories about paranormal happenings in and around the world. We try to keep these as current as possible. If you're more of a fan of older ghost stories, then be sure to check out our Haunted Headlines episodes where we dive into older haunted headlines. This is a little different though, and we kind of branch out and we go a little bit outside of our realm of comfortability and jump into some things that we normally don't talk about, like UFOs and Bigfoot sightings and cryptids.
We're just a base of knowledge on it too. We know so much about cryptids. It's insane.
Vast.
It's just
Vast knowledge.
it's a well of knowledge is what they say.
Well, shall we hop into the first story?
Let's do it. Who's going to go first?
I think we start with Rob's story. Rob, you got a ghost story. Let's keep it normal and then let's get a little weird.
And then branch out. Perfect. So this was in the Miami Herald on October 24th, 2023, written by Julia Marnin, titled, "Should Haunted Homes Come with a Warning? What Realtors and Paranormal Experts Say." It was nearly 20 years ago, but Cindy Hagley, a realtor in California's Bay Area, still remembers being alone inside a home in Antioch when she swore she spotted something out the corner of her eye. Hagley, who left a career as an ABC TV executive in 2006, hosted an open house for the property the following afternoon. A neighbor arrived, eager to see the inside, and that's when she learned the, quote, scary home. I hate how newspapers do this sometimes. Like they still have to take shots at it. Had a decades-long reputation of being haunted. Hagley later informed the seller of this interesting feedback. They told her, "Oh yeah, we've got a ghost." She wondered,
quotations don't always mean sarcasm. Sometimes they're actually just quoting somebody.
Yeah, but these weren't.
Are you sure?
Like the way that they're implementing one word. Like, come on, like what? Like you're doing that on purpose.
I don't think so, because the very next line after interesting, whatever that interesting quote was that they were quoting someone.
Yeah. Then they quoted somebody.
It's coming off as sarcastic.
Yeah. They even had one section where it goes into a quote and then comes into another quote right away. So they're showing you that it's sarcastic.
I have a doctorate in sarcasm. I'm not detecting it in this article.
Are they spelling it with like one letter lowercase, one letter capital, one letter lowercase? Scary story.
They just constantly bending over the article, staring down at it.
You know what it's like, if they are being sarcastic about it, like, dude, you chose to write this story. Like,
right.
You found it compelling enough that you wanted to make it news.
That's not always the case either. Sometimes these big media companies, they'll just be like, you get this, write about it, especially for the newer people, some of the newer journalists.
So the next sentence goes, she wondered what would happen if she started marketing the home as haunted, with haunted in quotation marks. You're telling me we're not doing sarcasm here? You couldn't have got the full quote from her saying, I you know what I mean? Like, I wondered what would happen if I started marketing it as haunted. We had to write it that way.
Let's assume it's haunted, and why don't you read it as I mean, let's assume it's sarcastic, and why don't you read it in a sarcastic tone?
All right.
That'll be fun.
She wondered what would happen if she started marketing the home as haunted. When she did, the interest spiked. Her marketing strategy worked out in her favor, although she ultimately sold the home to buyers who didn't believe in ghosts, she explained. She first made her mark selling homes rumored to be haunted, including the first one she ever sold in Antioch, but she's not a haunted house realtor, as some folks claim to be, she told McClatchy News. So this is the perfect example of it. It starts the quote as haunted house realtor, has the one quote, and then closes it with as some folks claim to be. Mm-hmm. So it's clearly sarcasm. Nowadays, Hagley, who grew up in West Virginia and Ohio, lived in homes she believed were haunted, takes a different approach and no longer markets home as potentially haunted, she said. Nor do I disclose it until we're already in contract. In California, disclosing a potential haunting isn't required or mentioned by state law. This is similar for the majority of states in the U.S., according to a recent Zillow analyst. However, a few states, Minnesota, Massachusetts, New Jersey, and New York, do have laws mentioning paranormal activity when it comes to real estate. Keep that in mind, Jesse. In Minnesota, there is no duty for sellers to disclose if a home is the site of a suicide, accidental death, natural death, or perceived paranormal activity, according to state law.
Are we saying these states require you to disclose paranormal activity or the fact that there was a death or suicide in the house?
They grouped it all together, but paranormal activity is in that list of things.
There's no way.
Massachusetts, 100%. Yeah. It's a big thing because it's like,
I know you have to disclose if there was a death in some states, not all states. I've never heard that you have to disclose paranormal activity.
100%. Yep.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I've looked into it because it's like that is the law determining that ghosts are real, right? Or at least they're taking the side where it's like, if you make it a law that you have to disclose that a house is haunted when you're selling it, then you're saying that ghosts are real, right? There has to be some sort of truth behind that.
I think that, so if you're talking about like a legal definition, the word paranormal means things that are just outside the natural world, right? Supernatural, paranormal doesn't necessarily mean that ghosts are real. It just means that things happen here that have no natural explanation.
Right.
But it doesn't mean it's unnatural.
Yeah.
It just means we don't know.
It means it's paranormal. I mean, it's just insane to me that I love it. I love every second of it, but it's crazy that it is on the books that you have to say that your house is haunted.
Yeah, it is.
It's crazy to me.
Yeah, get ready for it, Dave, because similar to Minnesota, Massachusetts state law specifically mentions perceived paranormal phenomena as something that doesn't need to be disclosed ahead of the sale of a home. There's no way to prove paranormal activity, Carter said. There's a lot bigger subjects that have to be discussed, like affordability, meeting the needs of the client.
Oh, so is Massachusetts not one of the states that you have to disclose?
It is. I think they wrote that wrong because I think Massachusetts is. Hey, everybody, Future Rob here with a very important message to let you know that I was in fact wrong, something you will probably never hear again. However, I felt that it was important for me to clarify this, that in Massachusetts, you do not need to disclose if your house is haunted when selling it. There is a page from Zillow that lists every single state and what you have to do with haunted houses. I'm going to drop that in the Discord. I'll drop it on this YouTube video as well if you're looking for that list. But let's get back to the show. But here's a story that gets wild. In New York in 1991, the state Supreme Court ruled one home in Nyack, a village nestled along the Hudson River, about an hour's drive north of New York City, was haunted as a matter of law. The ruling stemmed from how a buyer sued the woman who sold him the home after she didn't tell him it was perpetually haunted, a reputation she helped perpetuate. As a result, the men filed suit to rescind the contract of the sale, according to Cornell Law School's Legal Information Institute. The plaintiff, to his horror, discovered that the house he had recently contracted to purchase was widely reputed to be possessed by poltergeist. Justice Israel Rubin wrote in the famous case of Stambowski versus Ackley. Well, the home's owner, Helen V. Ackley, reported the existence of spectral apparitions in her home to the media, which one described her home as a riverfront Victorian with ghost. She made no mention of paranormal activity to Jeffrey M. Stambowski, who was from New York City. That sounds like a New York City name.
Oh, Sabrowski.
Sabrowski. You know, the guy with the ghosts over in the house there.
I'm walking here with my pastrami. I'm Sabrowski.
The state Supreme Court.
We're like collectively at least 70% Italian. If you add all of us together. So
Yeah.
you can say that.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a good bit.
Pastrami is not Italian.
Yeah, but we were doing the Italian thing.
Okay.
Yeah, we were doing the Italian
We
thing.
were having an Italian moment between us. People that aren't Italian may not have understood that.
Gotcha.
Jill McDowell, a real estate agent in Long Island, New York, who has worked in the business for 9 years after a 20-year career as a TV news reporter, told McClatchy News that while she believes homes can be haunted, she's never sold or attempted to sell such a property. Quote, if a seller believes their home is haunted and it's known throughout the community, I think, without a doubt, that a seller should not only tell the agent, but also allow the agent to disclose the information to potential buyers, she said. She said her friend purchased a home that she later discovered was haunted. While her friends consider the rumored spirits that dwell in it to be friendly, McDowell said she wishes the seller disclosed the haunting. And then some paranormal investigators weigh in, basically saying, if I'm buying the Amityville horror house and I don't actually know the background of it, I think it should be disclosed. Or the Conjuring house. Okay, if you're buying either of those houses,
Those are bad examples.
you know,
That was a very bad example.
Yeah.
the worst examples. Some would say that
Probably the top two
It's
worst
all-
examples.
it's probably not a worse example than that, other than like
Disney World's Haunted Mansion.
I'd love to live there.
oh man, it's just insane.
Amityville's a little bit different. Amityville's a bad example too, because it's like, oh, this is where a massive murder happened. Like it's
Yeah.
a whole family gets slaughtered inside of a house. Like, yeah, you got to disclose that. Never mind the haunting that followed. But of course, you know that the whole town is like the town should probably change its own name if they want to try to shake that history. You think Amity, you don't think, oh yeah, nice town. No, you think immediately, oh, murders, ghosts, poltergeists, warrants. You know,
Ghosts
at
and
least we do. But even people that don't really know the story about Amityville or the house, like they it's synonymous. Like, there's no way. You hear Amity, you think Amityville, you think Amityville house, you think murders, you think haunting.
When
There's
you
no
see
shame.
those windows,
Terrible
you
example.
think of it. You just
Right.
drive down the street. If you see a house that has similar windows, you go, oh, those are Amityville house windows. I know those windows.
Yep.
Yep. With the chimney in the middle.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's pretty much the article. It just goes on to talk about should you disclose? And I think this is a great time to ask our listeners to weigh in. Do you think a house should disclose if it's haunted or not when it's up for sale? Jesse, do you?
We're asking the wrong audience because we're all like, please do, because now I want to buy it more.
Well, that's be great for us
Right.
personally.
For other reasons. You know, it's the opposite side where it's like people that don't want to have a haunted house. We fall in this weird category of people that do want to have a haunted house. So for people that don't, they buy a house. They're like, oh, dude, what the hell? You didn't even tell me it was haunted. It does seem like it's such a strange thing to have to disclose.
Yeah.
Because it also seems like the people that are making these laws are probably the type of people that don't believe in ghosts. You're talking about people in public. Yeah, I don't know. I guess nobody is off that list. We've covered so many presidents and police officers that have reported on seeing haunted things. You just, you know, we've discussed it. When you deal with doctors and psychiatrists and people in this field, there's a very professional environment. They're more so afraid to even talk about haunting experiences if they've had them. But this whole story reminded me of, do you guys ever see the show Nathan For You?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you ever watch the Ghost Realtor episode?
No.
No.
I haven't
Where
seen that.
his whole shtick for her was, we'll bring you in to a house that is haunted and you're going to sell it by bringing in psychics and mediums and religious folks who like cleanse the house, and they will verify that there are no ghosts in your house. And so they rebranded her as the Ghost Realtor. And this is the whole thing. It was a great episode. Loved it.
That sounds
Absolutely
good.
amazing. Yes.
I don't think that you should have to disclose whether or not there are ghosts or paranormal activity in a house, because anything that's based solely on a belief suggests that it's not anything that could be confirmed fact. So legally, should you have to disclose something that isn't even a confirmed fact, right?
Jesse, play the Dave Fun Police drop.
We gotta make one of those. No, but he brings up a great point.
No, I get
Right.
it. I don't think you should have to disclose much when you're selling a house, right? Like it just, I know a house is a whole different thing than other items, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Like,
I guess I could see a murder, but like it's like if I didn't murder the person, like dude,
right?
I didn't do it.
Yeah,
Why do I have to? Why do I have to admit to something that I didn't do?
Yeah, but the thing is, like, what if it's a killer that's out there and is like, whoever ends up in that house, I'm killing that family. If I'm going to go buy a house and every family that's ever lived there has been murdered, I don't want to be the next person, but I would love to know that because
Where does this happen?
Amityville. No, obviously not. But I'm just creating an example.
Great
If
one.
people get murdered, I would need to know. I would need to know if murder happened.
If every homeowner who has lived in this house ends up getting murdered for a certain amount of time, it's probably like, all right, you should probably tell the next homeowners that they're probably going to get murdered too.
Yeah,
That would be one situation, but most of these cases are just one-offs.
I'd be so pissed if I got murdered.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, who wouldn't? I think most people would be very upset about it.
Yeah. I was going to finish off that
bullshit.
statement. I was going to finish off that statement by saying I'd be so upset if I got murdered in that scenario where people didn't tell me that people kept getting murdered in those. But I thought it was much funnier just to stop there.
Yeah, every year on June 12th, there's just somebody comes in and just wipes out the whole family.
Yeah, June 11th,
Anyways.
they're there to sign papers. The realtor's like, oh shit. I really need to delay this.
They're like, anyways, look at this basement. Look how much room is down here.
Ignore the blood stains. Yes. Anyways,
Come check out this third-story window.
yes. All right. Let's hop into the next one. I found this story really interesting because I'm like a newbie when it comes to like UFO stuff. So I don't know a whole bunch. I don't really know the lingo. I don't really look into too many UFO sightings. We covered a little bit on the Bridgewater Triangle episode because there were UFO sightings inside the Bridgewater Triangle, one of the many unexplained things that happen inside this area. But that's kind of the extent that I've dove into UFO stuff. But I found this very interesting. And I'll briefly kind of go over the beginning of this article, but what is more interesting to me is the testimony afterwards. So the Pentagon has launched a one-stop shop for declassified information about UFOs. This new website will house photos and videos about resolved cases that they are declassified and approved for public release, the Defense Department has said. With that being said, I'm just going to skip to the next part of this, which is talking about a former U.S. intelligence official who is testifying to this sort of cover-up thing. And this reminds me of our Mel's Hole episode where we dove into, could the government be covering this stuff up? But this is somebody who used to be part of the government that is saying, yeah, they are hiding a lot of stuff. So last month, a former U.S. intelligence official who once led Defense Department's efforts to analyze reported UAP sightings, it's like another word for UFOs. So it's like unexplained aerial. Okay, go ahead.
Well, now I know it's unexplained aerial phenomena.
Wow, you got it.
You ruined it. But we could have had so much fun. Just ruin the bit.
Yeah, sorry. It actually stands for under a platypus. Last month, a former U.S. intelligence official who once led Defense Department's efforts to analyze reported under a platypus sightings told a House Oversight Subcommittee that he had been informed about a multi-decade Pentagon program to collect and reassemble damaged UAPs. Those platypuses were hurt.
Platypuses were destroyed.
They were in rough shape. In his testimony, David Grush accused the government of covering up the program and claimed that non-human biologics have been found amid the rubble of crashed UAPs. So he's basically saying that like there are crashed UFOs on these sites. They've recovered the remains of some battered aliens and or platypuses.
A platypus would be the one creature on Earth that would be a alien. That thing doesn't make any sense.
We've talked about this. Octopus is definitely aliens.
In the ocean. But like as like a sort of land animal, a platypus is.
I think a platypus is also a water animal.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. That's an alien.
Yeah.
Also, can we discuss this briefly? Alligators, crocodiles, elephants, definitely dinosaurs.
What? Wait.
Yeah, this is important to discuss it. They look like dinosaurs.
I don't even think dinosaurs look like dinosaurs. I'm fully on board with dinosaurs were probably birds theory. You never heard that? Scientists now believe that dinosaurs likely were not reptilian, that they were likely covered in feathers because of the way the bones. You never heard this? It's pretty.
I did hear that actually, and I saw images of what they would look like if they had feathers. Have you seen the T-Rex? That's a goofy bird. That bird sucks. Can't
They
fly
also
like
did
that.
they also did a test where they took a skeleton of an animal, right? And they had a computer recreate what, based on the bone structure of this animal, what it would look like if it were a prehistoric animal. And it made this like really scary, creepy lizard creature, but it was actually just the bones of a rabbit. So it's like, it goes to show like how misleading a scary looking bone structure can be. And if you use your imagination, and you could come up with dinosaurs, but scientists believe that more likely dinosaurs are covered in feathers.
Jurassic Park with feathers would have been very goofy. Moving on, asked about
We have
his
to talk
claims.
about this more later. We have to revisit this in the future.
Our listeners of this paranormal update are getting a whole lot more than they expected. Whole lot of weird conversations. Asked about his claims, a Pentagon spokesperson said last month in the Defense Department that the Defense Department has not discovered any verifiable information to substantiate claims that any programs regarding the possession or reverse engineering of extraterrestrial materials have existed in the past or exist currently. That's such a Pentagon spokesperson.
Such a government line.
Yeah, it is.
They're like, how can we make this the most boring thing we've ever said in our lives?
Mm-hmm.
And then they find the way.
They always find a way. The National Intelligence Director's Office said in an unclassified report in January that the Defense Department had received 366 new reports of UAPs since March of 2021. The reporter said a preliminary analysis suggested that about half appeared to be balloons or drones. Thanks a lot, Fun Police. But it also said that initial characterization does not mean positively resolved or unidentified. The intelligence agency released its first report on UFOs in 2021. It reviewed 144 reported cases. So we're seeing more and more of this. Now this website has a whole bunch of pictures and videos of what are UAPs or UFOs. And so many of these videos make no sense because it's not, a lot of this could be drones. Like, let's be honest here. Drones fly, people are like, oh, UFO. People see anything in the sky, like, oh, UFO. But some of the footage that they've captured from
A T-Rex, apparently.
could have been, yeah, that thing so good at flying.
There's no fucking way it had feathers. I can't believe it.
We have no way of knowing, though. That's the other thing. I mean, I'm sure they do.
I know they didn't have feathers.
It was proved beyond a doubt that these ancient animals were the ancestors of modern day birds. Since then, more and more species of dinosaur have been revealed to have been covered in feather-like structures, according to the Natural History Museum.com.
I do want to make it clear for people that are kind of casually listening. These are two completely different things. We've been doing a lot of back and forth here between UFOs and dinosaur birds. And
We truly don't know how to do cryptids.
I wonder why we don't do this more often. Literally zero people have asked us to cover more UFO stuff because we have no fucking idea. Yeah, but to be perfectly clear, the website that I'm talking about from this article has exactly zero information on dinosaurs. So if you're looking for that, you're going to have to look at Dave's website. But that's kind of it for this one. I'm going to dive into this episode and check out some of this footage. But what's super compelling is not necessarily the stuff where people are capturing a light that's just kind of flashing in the sky. Oh, there it is again, Bob. There's the light again. Not that footage doesn't usually get me, but it's the footage that you're capturing from pilots where something is like speeding up and hovering right next to their thing and then darting off in a whole different direction, things that our aircraft can't do. That's the stuff that I'm like, well, what the hell is that? And when you have pilots that are just absolutely blown away, people that have been doing this for 40, 50 years, where they're like, nothing could do that. No drone is doing that. No T-Rex bird is doing that.
So the military does build things that they don't release to everybody right away. So which would explain why a pilot might see something and be like, that doesn't make sense, but you might just not know about it.
That's true. Yeah, he's like, wow, they're making remote control toasters now.
Yeah.
Never seen that.
Remote control toasters? Probably, right?
They wouldn't, the government has, but they're not telling us. That's the thing. They're not ready for the public to be able to pop their toast remotely from across the kitchen.
You bring up a good point, though, Jesse. The pilot sightings are always the ones I find the most compelling.
Absolutely.
Just the description, too, because they know how to describe what they're seeing in the sky as well. They're not just like, it's a bowl it looks like it's a bowl. Yeah, it's a bowl.
or like a saucer.
They're making bowls fly now? Oh, saucer. There you go.
Yeah. So they get into like real description of what they're seeing, and you're like, oh, well, this sounds very credible based on his description. So I agree with you fully on that.
Yeah. So
Speaking of like things that fly that can't be explained, pterodactyl. You find bones of a pterodactyl, right? And it's how like blatantly ignorant is it to be like, oh yeah, it was a flying reptile. It's like, no, dude, it fucking had feathers. Obviously, it's a bird. That's my example.
I don't have feathers, and I've been on planes plenty of times, Dave.
Yeah. Can you milk me?
Can you milk me, Dave? Yeah, I would say that pterodactyls probably had feathers. I will concede that only dinosaur to you. That's it.
Well, look at like raptors and the way their hands are, and it's like the perfect. It's like
even birds don't have feathers on their hands, Dave. Shut the fuck up.
Birds don't have hands.
Yeah, bears don't have hands, you idiot.
Neither do raptors, dipshit. They have claws like birds.
Yeah, but if you look at a bird's claws, no feathers.
None.
Your argument sucks.
No, I'm saying like their arm with the claw at the end bends the same way a bird's wing would bend.
Well, we all know that dinosaurs are descendants of birds. That's been a known fact for a long time. But there's no shot that a T-Rex had any feathers.
Not one feather.
I hope he had one feather. I hope he had one giant feather. I hope that's the breakthrough that we get. Just one massive fucking feather sticking out of the top of his head. So T-Rexes, feathers or no feathers?
Wait, is the theory that they evolved from birds into fucking reptiles? Because that like just into a different species altogether?
I don't know. This conversation is not what we should be having on the podcast. It's something we should be arguing over at a bar. But
we will.
I know.
T-Rex, as we know it, Jurassic Park T-Rex, absolutely terrifying, king of the dinosaur world, right? Eating everything, big old teeth, tiny little arms, little not scary on the arm factor, but everything else about it, absolutely terrifying. How unscary does it become if it just has one massive feather sticking out of the top of its head? Makes it a little goofy, but anyways, moving on. I thought that would get more laughs. It didn't.
Because I'm picturing it, and it's absolutely ridiculous. I'm in for the one feather, but that's it. No more.
Well, I think you're trying to picture like what you conceive of or what you believe a T-Rex to look like as a dinosaur, and then just picturing it covered with feathers when realistically the whole thing probably looks different. Like if we are imagining this thing was a reptile, then you're picturing a reptile, but don't picture a reptile with feathers.
What I'm not going to deal with is you generating an AI image of a T-Rex with one giant fucking feather sticking out of his head. We have to stop talking about dinosaurs because that is absolutely not what people came here for. So
right.
Those count as cryptids? No, they don't. But moving on, Dave, you got a story for us.
Yes. So this one is a murder, and it is pretty dark and brutal. So we'll end on a happy note here. This is from Mirror. And a woman, 22, was found drained of blood in an abandoned church as locals spot people dressed as vampires.
What the fuck?
Yeah, the story is from last week.
I was really hoping that it would have started over an argument about dinosaur feathers.
Yeah, maybe.
That's how this story ends.
Or maybe if they were arguing over whether or not vampires actually had feathers.
Oh, imagine that. Imagine a flying vampire. Well, I guess.
Look at that.
See, why'd they have to make it all rainbow colored? Like, that thing's cute as shit.
Yep.
And for audio listeners, Rob generated the image that I asked him not to generate. And it was pretty fun. It was actually a pretty fun image. Yep.
It's absolutely worth it.
Okay. We're going to try to take this story seriously because it's recent and it is wacky as it is. We're not going to talk about dinosaurs with it because it sounds, yeah. All right, let's hop into it.
The decomposing body of Oriane Natalie Lane from France was found by a hiker on April 6th at the deconstructed church in northern Italy's Aosta Valley. She had been drained of blood. A 22-year-old woman who was found with the blood drain from her body in an abandoned church had been, quote, looking for a haunted house containing ghosts before she died. Oriane Natalie Lane from France and a male friend were seen in the days before her death dressed like vampires, a witness said. Police have said that they thought that she may have been attempting to carry out a TikTok stunt as part of a ghost hunting competition currently underway in France on the social media platform. The other working theory investigators in the Aosta Valley village of La Selle are reportedly looking into is that it was a consented murder or a sacrifice. Her body was found by a hiker on April 6th at the deconsecrated church in northern Italy's Aosta Valley. She had been drained of blood, and it's believed that she had been dead for several days. In a police interview, a witness described the young woman in days before her death, describing her as pale and emaciated, and the man had dark hair and olive skin, CNN reports. The witness told police investigators that she looked like a walking corpse. Medical examiner Roberto Testi said that the young woman had been stabbed in what investigators say was a camping knife and had been
I do wish that when they said like the first one was like she looked like a walking corpse, and the medical examiner said she looked like corpse. Thank you, medical examiner. Correct.
Some of the blood at the scene had reportedly been scraped off the floor and removed, police told CNN. The young man who had been seen with her was tracked down to Lyon in France on Wednesday night. The 21-year-old Italian man was arrested on suspicion of murder and is now awaiting trial in the French city of Grenoble. The working theories are as follows. One, it was a TikTok challenge gone wrong, I guess, because I'm assuming the challenge isn't murder people and steal their blood.
That's what I was trying to figure out. Like, what is the TikTok ghost hunting challenge that results in this?
I think they have nothing to do with each other. I think the challenge is probably just go into a haunted house.
Yeah, and that's where she was killed. So it was probably either a TikTok challenge and the guy murdered her for whatever reason, or the other theory is that they're vampires, or they're the people who are pretending to be vampires, and then they perform these sacrifices or consented murders, which is weird.
This happened in the States too recently, the last few years, where there was a older guy who was basically starting like a cult of younger vampire like females, and it kind of escalated, and he ended up having one of the other ones with him kill another girl, and they drained the blood and everything. It's a crazy case as well.
It's a weird one because usually when you start a cult, things just go really well.
Always.
Yeah.
Always.
Really.
They always go great.
Right. But this is weird. There's a lot of weird details to this one. Number one, that she was actually drained. So it does sound like it might have been a ritual or consented murder or sacrifice. And the other one was that the blood, it seemed like they were trying to scrape it off the floor.
Yeah.
The way they describe it makes it almost, because you think blood gets removed from a scene, they're trying to cover up the murder.
Not if you leave the body there.
They left the goddamn body, so you're not covering up anything. That makes me think that they're like, oh, don't want to lose any of this delicious blood. That's gross and crazy and weird.
Mm-hmm. So to me, it does sound like it was a vampire thing. Not that I believe in real vampires, but that there are
imagine if
impersonators.
Imagine if they did like cover up the scene. They're cleaning up everything, scraping up the blood, and then they get out of there and they're in the car going on the way home. Like, where'd we put the body? Like, oh, come on, Jim.
Jim the vampire.
Jim the vampire. Yeah, just
classic Jim the vampire.
Forgot the body. That sucks.
Jim
what a
sucks.
Weird story. Wait, I have so many more questions than answers.
Yeah, I know. There aren't a lot of answers yet because this case is obviously developing and ongoing and under investigation. So
yeah, so it's not really a ghost story, but it started with ghost hunting challenge, so it's also that category. But once again, we get some vampire stuff going on here. Very, very strange. That makes me think that the guy's guilty. He got arrested, but it doesn't sound like
allegedly. It's ongoing. Just if you have to say allegedly.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, he didn't allegedly get arrested. He absolutely got arrested.
No, but Jesse said he thinks he's.
Well, you're allowed to say it sounds like someone's guilty, right? I don't know.
Allegedly.
We'll be careful. Yes. Yeah. Man, that's a sad story. That also sucks.
It does suck.
Yeah.
The saddest is if it was actually a consented murder. That's extremely ghoulish and disturbing.
Yeah, those are really strange. I've heard a couple cases that involve that, and it's just really weird for everyone involved. I just don't know how we get there.
What was it, the Heaven's Gate cult? And then they started chopping dicks off, and that one guy's like, me first, please, me.
Dude, that was so weird.
That's the weirdest consent right there.
Absolutely.
Because consented murder is like one step next to suicide, right? So do you commit suicide, you're Obviously,
Right, but they're
everything's tragic,
they're
but
distinct from each other.
they're
Obviously.
letting someone else do the murder for them.
Yeah, but you also have to find that person that's willing to do it as well.
Yeah,
Right.
so strange.
It's weird how people like that find each other. Like you hear the famous killer couples and stuff, and it's like, I understand that it's probably just a dominant personality overtaking another one, but you still like have to find someone that is willing to go that far.
Well, it's one thing to find a couple that are both into murdering. That's one thing. It's even weirder to find a murderer who finds somebody who's into being murdered. And then the weirdest of all is that one in Germany a while back where the guy was looking for someone to be cannibalized and somebody signed up and it actually went down. And it was like, went to court and everything because the guy actually killed and ate the other guy, but it was consensual.
That doesn't make it okay. Like
I didn't say it was okay.
Oh, I know. But like, it's like, no, he's not okay.
Yeah. Well, I think the guy, I know he ended up going to jail for it, and I don't want to misquote the case, but I think like it got appealed and whatnot. And I think he might've got out of jail.
No way. That's so
irresponsible. But I could be wrong there. I don't remember, but it's an insane case.
Yeah. It's crazy, man. But that was some crazy 3 stories that we had with a bonus tale
I threw in my story because I was like, well, mine's going to be boring and straight to the point. And we made sure that wasn't the case.
Yeah, platypuses and dinosaur birds.
We did a terrible job of buzzing through that story.
There's so many stuff for the listeners to leave in the comments. Do you think houses should be reported as haunted when you're selling them? Do you think that T-Rexes had feathers? Spoiler alert, they did not. Do you think that platypuses are UFOs?
Do you think the T-Rex could have had one giant feather on the top of his head?
Yeah, well, that's plausible. I'll give that one. That's a thing.
Write it down. That's a fact.
Yeah, so let us know in the comments if you do believe in any of those.
Yep, but other than that, that will pretty much do it for this week's Paranormal Update. Have you found a recent story of something unexplained that has happened in your neck of the woods, or did you just find it online? Did you find a story that you found like interesting and you want us to cover it on the show? Send it our way. hometownghoststories@gmail.com or drop it in Discord. That'll pretty much do it for Rob, Dave, and myself. This has been your Paranormal Update for this week. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Peace.